money is always a means to an end. And if you don't have an end goal, right, the money is useless. Early majority, late majority, and laggards. Laggards they're always going to believe that this is a fad, this is not going to work.
And I think this has got to be in my top 5 interviews I've ever done. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of the podcast in partnership with Smartcast and Najahi Events. More about them later. In May 2013, Davinci Jeremie created a YouTube video advising people to buy $1 worth of Bitcoin. That was when it was trading around about the $100 mark. 9 years later, at the time of recording, Bitcoin is trading at some $30,000, despite a recent slump. And his video has since gone viral with more than 4 million views. He is a software developer, CEO of Davinci Codes, founder of Pandora's Wallet, and his YouTube channel, once used to talk about investments in silver and gold, is dedicated now to all things crypto. In 2019, he was awarded the Best Influencer of the Davos World Economic Forum. I cannot wait to talk to this man and learn about where the crypto markets are, where they're heading, and what we should do about it. Cue the music. Smartcasts are solving a food security problem around the world. By 2080, the population will have grown so much that there isn't enough food to feed them. And so they're bringing out innovative agri-tech solutions to solve that problem. This is not a small problem. It's a big problem. Climate change is affecting things, soil erosion is affecting it as well. And so we really need to get to the bottom of it and fix this problem. And that's why I'm working alongside Smartcast to bring their message to the world so that they can solve this critical problem that exists today. Go and check them out, Smartcast Tech on Instagram, SmartKastech. Go and look at them on Instagram, follow what they're doing because they are making a genuine difference to all of humanity. Najahi Events have been sponsoring us since the beginning. We love Najahi Events. Alpha Mustafa, the founder, brings motivational speakers and inspirational leaders here into the region so that we can be educated by them. So if you want to be educated, you want to be inspired, you want people like Tony Robbins giving you words of wisdom and advice, then go check out Najahi Events. NAJAHIEVENTS on Instagram. You'll find them there. Okay, give them a follow and say hi from me. What was it about Bitcoin that got you interested in it in the first place? How did this all begin for you?
Well, it began when one of my YouTube subscribers told me, hey, Davinci, what do you think about Bitcoin? And I looked at the web page and I was like, oh, this is a scam, right? You can't solve the double spend problem because I'm a software developer. I tried to build something similar in the past and I failed because it was a programming problem that existed for since computers ever existed for like 70 years. And so how do you have a digital asset that can't be copied, where I could give it to you and you know that I can't give it to somebody else? That's impossible. So I told the subscriber, oh, I was so angry. This is definitely a scam. I'm going to read the source code and show you how they're scamming people, right? And so I went through the source code and I was like, oh darn, this is not a scam. And I was quite impressed and shocked. And I realized that Satoshi had done it. I was freaked out. I did my next episode on YouTube was, I thought I was going to be the hero of my community because my community was the gold and silver community where we talked about gold, silver, and the financial system and how, it's corrupt and, only gold and silver is money because that's been money for like 5,000 years. We always, whenever our financial system collapses, and because whenever we have paper money or money that's by decree, it always collapses because we always find a way to print it into nothing. And then we end up going back to gold and silver as money. So my channel was basically pointing that out and pushing people to hope. You got to hold a lot of gold. You have to hold a lot of silver because this is going to come to an end.
And so that understanding of gold and silver had been something that you'd been studying for a long time. Did you kind of like come out of university fascinated with how the money system works? Is that what it was? Or was it just something that gradually along the way you started to get either aggrieved by or?
Believe it or not, I growing up, I knew something was wrong with the money and I didn't know what it was. I remember asking my father, why is price always going up? I don't understand. And my father says, oh, it's a greedy businessman. And I'm thinking, how is that possible? Greedy businessmen are causing the prices to go up. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be somebody who's not greedy, right?
Yeah.
So my head as a child, like 11-year-old, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And I have to find out what's wrong, how money works. And so I went to the library and started asking about books about money, and there wasn't any.
Oh, really?
And I didn't know at the time, but that's by design.
Of course.
Because the people who took over the money system, they didn't want you to understand how money works. Mm-hmm. And so later on in life, around 2000, it was around 2007, where I was watching a Republican debate, and I don't know why, because I was a complete socialist as a Canadian, right? And this one presidential candidate named Ron Paul said, our monetary system is unfair. It transfers wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich. I'm like, no, it doesn't. And why would the government do that? And they said, yes, it did. Everybody on the stage said, yeah, but that's not what we're going to talk about. And they just moved on.
Oh, really?
And I was like, isn't that kind of important? You all agreed?
Wow.
And just brushed it aside. I realized, oh my God, I didn't know how money worked. And I got to find out what does this guy know? I started studying Ron Paul, and then I started studying the monetary system. My first book I read was The Creature from Jekyll Island. That was like, for me, waking up from the Matrix. I felt exactly like, Alice bouncing down the rabbit hole, seeing things. Everything that I'd learned was just completely incorrect about money, about finance, about mortgages, about everything that you learn from the banks on television, right? Or through commercials. It's all freaking lie. I realized that. And I was like, oh my God, we were all doing it wrong because we're taught to do it wrong. Right?
It's really important. It's really important what you just said, because
Yes.
there is a huge amount of ignorance even to this day. If you were to ask, if you were to ask 10 people that walked past us on the street this afternoon if they understood what inflation was.
They have no idea. They'd say prices increasing, but that's not what inflation is. It's actually the increase in money supply, and the price increases are the result.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so when you say to people, do you understand what it means when you print more money or government prints more money? Do you understand what the impact is? Again, most people don't understand what the impact is. And that's inflation. Mm-hmm. If you were to ask most people to explain how a mutual fund works, mm-hmm. they wouldn't be able to tell you, most people. If you were to ask them to explain how a stock works, now some would, but most wouldn't. And there's almost this ignorance because it hurts their head too much to learn about it. And they go into that space of, well, it's safe in the bank, so I might as well leave it there. I'm never going to lose it if it's in the bank. I'll get myself a house. I'll get a mortgage. I'll pay that mortgage off as soon as I can, and then I'll own my house, and so nobody can ever take it away from me. And being in that place, then I'm in a decent place. And then I'll save my money for my retirement through an RSP or a 401k or whatever it might be. And when I get to 65, hopefully it would have grown in value. Whenever I ask anybody, what's your money in your RSP or your 401k invested in? It's a basket. It's
exactly.
a basket of a multi-manager, I think, that kind of that response, Is your money in Vanguard? Yeah, Vanguard's one of them. Okay, so what's invested in Vanguard? Oh, I don't know. Vanguard's what it's in, though. It's very good, Vanguard. Mm-hmm. And so you get this, and I've been in the investment business for 30 years. And so I know. And what I've learned is that most people, if they want to invest their money, there's two things they want to know. Is it safe? And what am I going to get back? So it's like, Spence, I gave you $100. You're going to give me $110 back. Okay, let me explain how that works. That's okay. Mm-hmm. No, well, I'll explain anyway. And they glaze over. You need to know what's happening with your money. So that's why I find it really fascinating in the whole Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space. Most people don't understand what they're investing in. And there's a lot of people saying, because they don't understand, that's wrong, they shouldn't invest. But most people don't understand what they're invested in with most things they invest in.
Exactly.
They really don't.
Nope.
So why any different? Most people are just looking for the outcome, the result, what they can get. Okay, tell me about your journey then of buying Bitcoin. Can you remember when you first bought it, how you bought it? Because exchanges didn't really exist in the way they do today back then, did they?
That's so true. I mean, there was no exchange except Mt. Gox. That was the only exchange at the time. And so I ended up buying Bitcoin from, actually, there was a few places that actually accepted PayPal payments, but only a small amount because of the chargebacks. So they would, so I'd buy like $35 worth of Bitcoin here and there, and that was the maximum you could buy per day.
$35.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
And so it was very difficult. So I was asking people around if anybody wants to sell me their Bitcoin or sell Bitcoins to me, please, I'll buy it from them. And that didn't work very well. I didn't really trust Mt. Gox as a wire transfer to them in Japan, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. I don't know if they're going to actually, credit me this money so I could buy Bitcoin from them. So, but I found other people who did, and they were successful at it. I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. So what I started to do is mine Bitcoin, since I was skilled at putting together equipment and also programming and so forth. So it was not a problem for me. And I have several videos of me mining still available on my YouTube channel. You can see my whole mining operation. It's quite hilarious. Right? It was so big, and using my house's electricity, people were saying, Davinci, this is going to look like a grow op, right? To the electricity company.
Yeah.
Right? And the amount of heat that you're putting out, yeah, grow up. So yeah, and it turns out that there was a lot of houses. There was a lot of raids on houses back then because they thought it was a grow up, but it was actually just mining farm.
So for people that don't understand what a grow up is, that's an indoor discrete marijuana farm.
Yeah, exactly.
So people thought that was taking place, but and when you first started mining, did somebody teach you how to do it, or did you just go and kind of figure it out yourself?
I figured it out myself because I'm as a software developer, right? I could do the research. I always do research and stuff like that, and I learned how to manage computer systems and so forth. I mean, I wrote complex software applications for the company that I worked for, right? I rewrote my own compression algorithm for the data archival system, so I can handle mining. No problem.
Mining by comparison.
Exactly,
but for most people, again, if you said to them, right, go and learn how to mine, that's overwhelming for most people as well.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got this mining going on, and so were you mining as much as you thought you would at first, or was it just dribs and drabs?
No, I was mining quite a bit. I was mining I got up to around 35 Bitcoins per day at the height of the GPU mining back in 2011. So I was doing extremely well. And but the hardest thing was trying to convince people to buy Bitcoin back then. I remember I was so convinced that this was going to be the money in the future, and you had the opportunity of a lifetime, that I said, listen, anyone who puts in $1,000, I will hold back $1,000 of silver or gold just for them if it goes to zero. That's how confident I am. Wow. And so only 5 people took me off on that offer.
Never.
Right? Yes, the videos are still up there. Actually, if you look for them, you'll find them. Right, I have them grouped on at Davinci J15 on my YouTube channel as all the 2011 videos. So you can find exactly what I'm talking about in those videos.
Goodness me. So I remember seeing the video where you were telling everybody just to spend $1.
Yes, exactly. Because I was getting frustrated a lot. And that video wasn't telling people to buy $1, a Bitcoin for $1. It was actually just buy $1 worth of Bitcoin. And because they were saying they wouldn't even put $1, right, invested into Bitcoin because it's going to zero. It's a waste of time. I'm like, okay, fine. Put $1. Like, really? It's like, you spend that on lottery tickets and stuff like that. It's nothing. Just save those Bitcoins, that $1 worth of Bitcoins, and see for yourself how well this thing does. Because if it goes to zero, so what? A lottery ticket goes to zero, right? So that was my thinking back then.
So yeah, that's a kind of like in any way of marketing anything. And I know you weren't marketing, but any way of marketing anything, make it a no-brainer. Make it risk-free, make it hassle-free, make it easy. And it's look, Who's got a buck?
Exactly.
$5 worth of it. When you made that video, what was it trading at that time?
It was actually about $100 at that time.
About $100.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the price. And when you started mining, what was the price of it?
The price was when I first started mining, it was around $1. It just was breaking above the dollar mark. It was April, and so it went above the dollar mark, and it went through to like $5 a maximum. I think all of April was like the height. I remember, I remember a friend of mine. I told him about it, and he was convinced at $2. Right? It was at $2, and then when when he went to go buy it, it was like at $4. He's like, "Oh, forget it. It's too late for me." And he didn't end up buying.
Never.
Yeah, he ended up buying until like 2013 when it was over $100, and we realized, oh my God, what did I do?
FOMO.
Yes, exactly.
So you then held on to all of your. Were you buying anything else or just Bitcoin during those years?
Actually, I was believe it or not, there was no other coin at the time in March of 2011, April of 2011. It was shortly after April. I think Litecoin came into the scene, and same with Namecoin. Namecoin is now dead, but I went with I felt that Namecoin had a better chance than Litecoin, which just wanted to be silver to Bitcoin gold, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. Bitcoin's divisible to infinity. There's no point in having another cryptocurrency that acts as its silver. It's just useless. And so I didn't think it would, continue on and become what it was, because I could have mined it for absolutely zero, right? And, I could have bought it for absolutely zero. But instead I went with Namecoin, and Namecoin was basically a system of providing a name, like domain names on the internet, but that was secured. So you knew that these names belonged to you. It just never took off, the idea, and didn't do too well. But the reason why I was mining is because it was using the same mining algorithm as Bitcoin. So it allowed me to do merge mining, so I could mine both of them at the same time. And so I actually created a mining pool that allowed people to mine both Bitcoin and Namecoin at the same time. And so I made a lot of Namecoin. I unfortunately, the exchange I was trading with, they collapsed the day that I was selling the top of Namecoin. Yes, on the day, there was the exact top for Namecoin. I sold it off for Bitcoin, and they collapsed. Their servers had died, their hard drives had died, and they had no backup.
So you lost it all?
Yes.
How much did you lose?
I lost about $2 million worth of the Namecoin.
And how did that feel in that moment?
Actually, it was. I didn't feel that bad. It was like, I was mad, but I was like, easy come, easy go.
It's good to know that you had that experience, because a lot of people that see the successful people in the crypto space, they don't realize that they've had their losses too. They've had their headaches along the way. So when was that collapsed? What year and what month?
That was in 2012, right? I remember that I was selling everything into I think it was 2012. Yes, I believe that the collapse happened, and I was I was a little bit upset, but then just because I was only upset because everybody else was, because a lot of people lost money. It wasn't the only one, right?
After losing that, I don't know if I want to go into anything other than Bitcoin now. I think I'll just stick with what I know and what I'm comfortable with. Or were you still very curious as to other things that came out and were available afterwards?
No, I was thinking I was a maximalist for a while at first, until one person pointed out, when I moved to Chile shortly afterwards, one person pointed out, so you don't believe in competition? You don't think that, that people should have the right to build other cryptocurrencies to see if they can make it? And I was like, yeah, I do believe in competition. Right? Competition is good. Yeah. And so that's when I switched from being a maxi to saying, okay, yeah, I'm going to accept other cryptocurrencies because, one, it not only provides competition for Bitcoin, but also a means of the developers seeing what works and what doesn't out there, so that they could probably in the future incorporate that into Bitcoin.
And it brings further awareness as well, doesn't it, to that whole space? So you're sitting there, the guy's kind of made a point and made you go, okay, that's a fair point.
Yeah, exactly.
And then every time you invested in anything other than Bitcoin, did you do a huge amount of research or did you listen to the sales pitch? How did it work for you?
Well, I started really investing into other cryptocurrencies around the 2015, right? I didn't do it at first. At first, I didn't know whether to invest in because I didn't know which one was going to do well, which one. I didn't know how to actually analyze them properly because it was just explosion of so many of them. And I was always listening to somebody else, and I didn't like doing that. And just you only have so much time in your life in order to spend the real time that's needed to research any particular asset. And so I in 2015 I came up with a method that evaluated the cryptocurrencies in a quick and easy way. Now that method doesn't work anymore, but it did back then. And so I used that method to give a quick point system basically on each cryptocurrency based on how much supply it had, whether it's fixed, whether there's a good team, whether they were updating it in the GitHub, all these kinds of key points in order to determine whether or not this cryptocurrency was worthwhile investing in. And yeah, it worked extremely well. It gave high points to certain cryptocurrencies that did extremely well into the 2017 bubble. I remember like Dash, which is one of the example ones that I was like, yes, this one's a decent coin that had the highest point rated systems. And same with XML. No, it's not. Is it XML? Is it Monero? Yes, Monero. That had a high rating, and yeah, I did well with that, but I did it also in conjunction with the little lady strategy. A friend. The person who taught me how to trade, his name is Brian Beamish. He came up with the little lady strategy, and I've been using it ever since. And it was an easy way for you to invest in all the different cryptos out there without a lot of research, just the technical analysis, and how to profit from them, because a lot of them go up and down like a horse drawers. Basically, you could actually profit from that movement, because what happens is you could sell half on a double, and then when it comes back down, you can go, okay, well, I can buy this now that it's low enough, and then they usually just double again, and then you can sell half on a double. And so one of the crazy coins that I knew that was going to zero, that was absolutely destined to zero, I actually invested in. And that coin was called Titcoin.
Titcoin?
Yes.
Wow.
You could actually Google it right now, because you can see a story about what it is on YouTube, and you will die of laughter. You go like, really? This is good? You really think this is going to work? It's hilarious. And so you knew it was going to zero. But in the meantime, man, I profited the most.
Let's talk about why cryptocurrency and digital assets are the future, why we have to replace fiat money with this, and why people like Michael Saylor, who's obviously very, very stern, Robert Breedlove and Raoul Paul, find it hard convincing the world that this exists and this is real, this situation.
Oh man, that's a lot. There's a lot there. Why is this the future? Well, because this is fair and honest money. This is money that, that it has a fixed supply, and it can't be changed by no man. No one man can change it, or no group of men can change it. And why is that important? Well, imagine if we tried to build something with a ruler, where the government decided how long the ruler is every single day. Yeah. Would you be able to build something?
No, never.
Exactly. That would be impossible. So that's why. How is it possible for us to build our retirement and our future plans with a monetary system, where you don't know how much you need in the future? Think about this, because I was thinking about it as growing up and trying to plan for my retirement. I'm like, okay, well, how much do I need? Well, maybe I can use like $1 million, but you don't know how much $1 million is worth, what it's going to buy by the time you retire. Okay, so when I have to calculate inflation. But what if inflation is a lot more than the future? I don't have anything, any kind of metrics to know what do I need so I can survive in the future. There's no way to come up with that metrics. Well, now with Bitcoin as a money, there is. You could have a fixed number of Bitcoin that you need, and you'll know that it's guaranteed that the value will be there because the supply is fixed. And as more people come into the population, that means there's more, they'll provide even more value for you. So now your fixed amount of Bitcoin will provide you even more value in the future. So you don't have to guess how much how much dollars you need like you do now. You know exactly how much you need. And then you can say, okay, well, not only that, this exact amount will help me in the future. Also, I know that it's going to be worth a lot more. That's the beauty of it.
That's really interesting because for you not to be able to calculate what you're going to need in the future is a really difficult situation to put yourself into because, you know, let's say you're 35 years old now and you retire at 65 in 30 years time, what do you actually need? Yes, with inflation averages, you can say 3% inflation a year, let's calculate it that way. But right now, this very minute, we're sitting in a time where inflation is off the charts. Okay, you can't even imagine, you know, because we say official figures are 6%, 7%, 8%. No, they're not. Okay, but fuel in this country has gone up by 56% this year on its own, let alone anything else. And so we're seeing it very, very difficult for us to start to think about that. So if that's the case, everybody should lean into something that can help them avoid that, as per your explanation. Agreed?
Exactly. But it's difficult because here's the reason why for people to change, right? When we first came up with paper money backed up by the gold, did you think, oh, duh, everybody went, yes, let's do it immediately? No.
They were IOUs, weren't they?
Exactly. And it took hundreds of years for people to actually finally go, yeah, that makes sense. That I should hold, notes instead of like bags of gold.
This is really interesting. This is really interesting. Hundreds of years for people to change from one system, which was gold and silver, like this, into pieces of paper.
And the gold being in the vault, in the bank. Yes.
People don't respect that.
Exactly. They don't respect the time it takes for people to adopt technology. When electricity was invented, for example, the first thing they did was they lit up. One of the things they did was they lit up the Eiffel Tower. They were like, "Oh, this is crazy." One, right? This is gonna burn down your house if you put wires through your whole house. You crazy?
Yeah.
And how are they gonna possibly get electricity? Because they had using DC electricity to any place in the world and to the cities, you're going to need a huge cable the size of a bus in order to get DC electricity to some people, to a whole city block, right? And that's true because DC electricity, you have to use a lot of current, and you need a big cable. But eventually, Tesla came up with alternating current, which will allow you to use a small cable but higher voltage to change it so that you can step it down and then convert from DC to AC, to DC. And then, now today we can use electricity for a lot more than just lighting up your house, right? Well, the key thing about Bitcoin is we could use Bitcoin for a lot more than just making payments. There's a huge underlying features that are built inside the Bitcoin protocol that can only come into existence once everyone uses it for money. Once that happens, it opens up a whole new world for money, because Bitcoin is more than just a new type of money that we can just use, because it's the type of money that's invented that has one key feature that none of the other types of money that we've invented like 5 different types. One of the key, all the different types of money that we've invented requires an individual or group to be the owner of it, basically. For the first time ever, Bitcoin is money where your refrigerator or your car can be the owner of the money. A thing can own the money. This opens up a huge realm of possibilities where you have actual physical items working for you to pay you. So imagine you have these cameras here. Imagine these cameras were programmed so that they get paid for you to use them. So for example, you wanted to use them, you just send a small amount of Bitcoin to them. And the person who actually owned the cameras gets paid.
Wow.
Imagine a world like that.
Man, that's...
Yes. It opens up a whole crazy avenue.
That's almost beyond, I mean, that's... Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Wow. And that's possible.
Yes. Now that's for the first time ever. First time ever that's possible. Yes. Jaw dropping. Yes. I can see it in your mouth is like, yeah.
No, I get that.
This is bigger. Bitcoin's bigger than just a simple payment system. It's way bigger. It's simple. It's bigger than even just that I just told you. Even this is like mind blowing. No. It's got more. It's got more.
When you consider that governments need to be in control, okay, for them to be happy, and they want to retain that control no matter what, and whether you're the part of the Illuminati or whatever you want to call it, the government's, the central bank, the Fed Reserve, will it only ever truly work when they have some form of control of it?
Okay, let's just break that down, right? Back when they invented the Gutenberg press in the 1400s, no government or church, because those were the two entities that were in control, wanted people to have books. And this is why today we don't have any books. Oh, wait, that's right. It doesn't matter what the governments want.
Yeah.
You cannot stop a technology whose time has come. When the Gutenberg was pressed, they just tried to destroy it. It's just people created more, and books eventually became prevalent for everybody, and it improved society. You cannot stop or control the production of books. They can try controlling it, but they've failed so far, don't you think? I mean, a lot of people have gotten, I've gotten books that, that the governments didn't want people to have, right? I have access to a lot of books that the government doesn't want people to have, but doesn't matter, right?
But you're dealing essentially with a new world order. So it's so much bigger than money and payments.
Yes. Bitcoin? Yes.
You're taking all control away from all powers that crave control.
Yes. They've lost it before, and they're going to lose it again. It's happened before, and it will happen again, and then they will find other ways to get control, and then they'll lose that control. That's the cycle of things, right? So, and this is the beauty of Bitcoin. There's nothing they can do except slowing it down. They know that. And they've already done a very good job of slowing it down. They've woken up way back in 2017, and they've started putting a lot of things in place since then to slow down the adoption of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And we can name a couple if you like.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, it started with the naming it as a commodity, right? By making it a commodity, right? Making trades is directly with that commodity is still a taxable event. And on top of that, let's put it on the commodities exchange, right? They allowed it to go on the commodities exchange. Well, Bitcoin and Ethereum is now on the commodities exchange. They're both assets, the first asset on the commodities exchange, where if you ask for delivery, because that's what the commodities exchange is, allowing you to trade commodities on that exchange and ask for delivery of the commodity. Right. So if you write up a contract saying, I owe you 10 Bitcoin in 90 days, right? You're supposed to be able to receive those Bitcoins if you decide to request the delivery, just like you do with oil, right? So for example, remember when oil went negative? Well,
yeah, that oil was delivered, wasn't it?
The reason why it went negative is because nobody wanted to take delivery of those oil contracts because they had no place to put it.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, that's what the commodities exchange is all about. You being able to get the commodity, right, once the contract expires. Mm-hmm. Well, if the contract expires for Bitcoin and Ethereum, you do not get paid in Bitcoin and Ethereum. You only get paid in cash. It's the first commodity that's ever been like that. Ever in the history of the commodities exchange.
I never knew that.
Yes.
I never knew that.
The first salvo of slowing down the price
Yeah, man.
has been shot across the bow.
Yeah.
There's number one. The second shot, right, was a lot of people don't realize it. They think it's a positive, right? Is that the ability to be able to allow to deposit your Bitcoin and earn interest on it.
Staking.
Yeah, basically, somebody can borrow those Bitcoins and, you get interest on the Bitcoin. Now, there's several problems with that, right? You understand the limited nature of Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, most people don't understand the power of compounding, since this is a compounding interest here.
Mm-hmm.
So to really capture your understanding of compounding, let's just start with $1 when Jesus Christ was born. And that's 2% rate compounded monthly, meaning that not actually 2% every month. It's actually 0.05% or so, not less than that, but it's a very small amount, right? Per month that's compounded, right? And so let's compound that for 2,000 years.
2% a year for 2,000 years.
Yes, compounded.
Yeah.
What's the number you would own after 2,000 years? Well, the number would be so big that it would be bigger than all the atoms in all of the universe.
All the atoms in all the
universe, yes.
2,000 years of compounding at 2% a year.
After 2,000 years, not touching it. So you understand it becomes a huge hockey stick, right?
Yeah.
When you have even a small percentage.
Yeah.
Now imagine if you started with a larger number than 1.
Yeah.
Right? So imagine what's happening inside these a lot of these funds. Do you think they really have all that Bitcoin? They probably don't. They probably have contracts with the Federal Reserve, right, saying, hey, you know what, if we default, you guys are going to bail us out, or with the bank, right? Because they can print as much money as they want, just so you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I think people don't understand that they can print as much money as they want. There's no limit to how much paper they can print.
And because of that, they can always guarantee that you're going to get the paper dollars, right? And some people might go, well, that's okay. Oh, okay, fine. We'll talk about why that's not okay in a minute, right? We all know that the government's price controls. But anyways, let's continue on why this is a bad thing. Now you're lending these Bitcoins, right? And you're like, okay, great, I'm getting an interest. But who's borrowing the Bitcoin? Ever thought about that? No. Well, it's the people who want to sell into the market, right? And so they're going to borrow the Bitcoin to sell into the market. Well, they've got a problem. What happens if I buy that Bitcoin and then add it to my... Okay, hold on. Do you think the people who are selling into the market are that dumb? They need to be able to buy back the Bitcoin in order to, profit, right? Because, that's how it is, right? In this society, you want to be able to profit. So how can they know for sure that they can actually, sell the Bitcoins at the right time and profit and be able to buy it back? Because they're going to need people to sell it to them to buy it back, especially since they're selling a whole lot into the market, right? Well, this is where phase 2 of this plan comes into effect. The government also allowed companies to allow you to borrow against your Bitcoin so that you can, deposit your Bitcoin and, borrow on 50% of the equity of that. Or less, maybe 20% or whatever. And so a lot of people did that. A lot of people who have a lot of Bitcoin borrowed against it. And most of them get liquidated around $20,000, $21,000 mark, meaning that those Bitcoins come into sale in order to cover the loan that they have. So, as a person who is, has the opportunity to borrow some Bitcoin and sell it into market, they have a target price where they can guarantee that they can get liquidity.
Okay.
Right? So they can buy back the Bitcoin and pay them back. So that's another way that they have provided ways to suppress the adoption of Bitcoin, because everybody cares about price. Nobody cares what Bitcoin can do. They just care about price.
Well, after what you said 10 minutes ago, I now really care about what Bitcoin can do. My camera is starting to make money.
Yes, I know, but that's people who want to research and study and realize what it is, right? Like Michael Saylor did, right? But that's not everybody, right? Most people, they're going about their lives. They're a doctor, they're a dentist, they're a lawyer, whatever. They don't have time to research what's the latest craze. It's the only thing that gives them any kind of attention is when, price is going higher and they go, okay, what's going on over there, right? They need to have something interrupt what they're doing in their daily lives in order for them to go and find out what's going on. So that's why they have to suppress the price as part of the process of keeping people out of Bitcoin.
The Luna example recently, where Luna went bust and the involvement of BlackRock, that to me stinks of outside sources wanting to create negativity and fear in a marketplace, more so to keep people away from wanting to buy into crypto assets than would normally be excited to do so. Do you agree with that? And can you explain what happened a little bit?
It's a possibility, but it was most likely just that when I looked at the protocol and after the fact, I should have done it before I invested. I just saw my friends investing and I was like, oh, okay, let me invest too. If I just stopped and said, okay, why don't you just read the white paper first? Because the first thing I would have looked for is whether or not they had a plan for what's called tail risk, major event, whether it be to the positive or to the negative. Because the problem with a stablecoin is that there's always going to be an event where the market goes absolutely haywire, and you need to be able to prepare for that. So the market go haywire in both going on the downside and to the upside. I noticed that MakerDAO does not have a plan for the upside.
Okay.
Right? They do have a plan for the downside, but not the upside. And that's a little scary. They need to have a plan for the upside, because that's going to happen where, what happens when the dollar gets collapsed in the value rapidly. They don't have a plan for that, right? So people rushing in and throwing them dollars, right? So they need to manage that as well. But anyways, the way I saw it is that there was a huge hole that anybody could have taken advantage of, right? That had enough money to do so. Because I saw that once I read the white paper and went through this, and I was like, oh, darn, this was obvious, right? There was too big holes in this algo coin. And I'm like, and the reason why I didn't if I just spent my time studying it, is because I saw Mike Novogratz and everybody else, the huge names. So I figured they would have had the same knowledge that I did. No, not everybody has the same knowledge.
The guys with your finger on the pulse that know exactly what's going on, the guys that we look to, okay, even sometimes you get caught up in the hype.
Exactly. And that's what happened.
Okay.
Yes. We got caught up in the hype.
That's kind of reassuring and not to know at the same time.
Yeah, I got caught up in the hype and I didn't actually look. If I looked, I would have saw immediately that this was not going to work. Immediately.
Tell me what you hold nowadays, because I heard that you don't hold Bitcoin anymore and you're more...
I hold Bitcoin. No. No, I hold a lot of Bitcoin.
Okay, so you do hold a lot of Bitcoin.
Yes.
But do you hold...
I was joking about that tweet where I said I sold all my assets for SHIB and Dogecoin. And I put underneath it, it's a joke.
What do you hold?
Bitcoin and Ethereum and Binance Coin in the majorities.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Binance Coin. Okay. And so when you see the price going from 60-odd thousand down to 29,000 as it sits around today of Bitcoin, anybody that's coming into this market today, traditionally as an investment advisor myself, okay, I find it hilarious that people always want to buy at the top. They want to see a load of performance before they'll get their toes in the water. Mathematically, economically, intellectually, it's better to buy when it's cheap than it is when it's expensive. Now, you can argue when cheap is. Is cheap at 30,000 compared to $1? No, okay? But cheap at 60,000 now at 30,000, then arguably it's got a 50% discount on it. What do you think about that? And should your average investor be investing a percentage of their salary, a percentage of their portfolio, and what that percentage is into crypto assets, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or others, okay, for their long-term future?
Well, I do believe that people should be investing in Bitcoin, even a small percentage, into their the future of Bitcoin, and Ethereum, and cryptocurrencies, because they're here to stay. This is a new asset class that's not going away. It's decentralized. It's permissionless. With cryptocurrencies, right, as money, anyone can produce add advantages to our crypto universe.
So why
for free?
Yeah,
and we all benefit, all of us.
So why, when you take someone like Warren Buffett, he's okay. We know he's ancient, okay, but he's an incredibly successful investor over many decades and generations. He's very anti-crypto. We know that. Now we can argue he knows his lane, he's in his lane, and he's stuck in his lane, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I kind of think he's smarter than that. Okay, but let's take somebody else like Peter Schiff. In 2007, Peter predicted the market was going to crash. He came on and there was a big argument on CNBC where Art Laffer, that was advisor to Bill Clinton, going, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, Peter. The market's in good condition as it is. Everything's going to keep going on. And Peter Schiff was like, it's not, mate. Okay,
exactly.
these are the, you remember that?
No,
the reasons
exactly.
why,
I show people that.
People, he's like, this is what's going to happen. And lo and behold, it did. And on the back of that, Peter Schiff in America became this guru, in essence, and everyone started giving their money to him because he could predict the future. And he became very successful, and many of his clients did. And he's very anti, crypto. And he'll openly talk about it. Why do you think people like that? And let's park Warren Buffett because he's very old. But why do you think people like Peter Schiff don't get it?
There's always laggards going to be in our whenever it comes to technology. There's people who are if you look at a technology adoption curve, there's like, early adopters, right? The late majority, right? I mean, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Laggards they're always going to believe that this is a fad, this is not going to work, blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be a percentage of the population that will be holdouts, but they're very small, right? And Peter's he's just an early holdout. That's all he is, right? That we can identify. He's going to hold out. Bitcoin's going to be money, and he's going to actually be using it to pay for stuff, and he's still going to be against it. He's still going to say this is not going to work, right? He's going to be there right to the very end because it's part of his identity now.
Yeah,
right?
He's still that, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So
can't say he's wrong.
Exactly. It's too much of his identity at this point. So it wouldn't make any sense for him to change, and it'd be funny. It's fun for him. I'm sure it's fun for him to do this because every time he does, it's like a wasp of bees just come like attacking him, and he's enjoying that because I do that too myself, and I love it with XRP. Whenever I insult XRP, people just come. The XRP army just comes at me like, and it's fun. It's fun. So yeah, he's going to do this, right? Until the end of time, right? Until he's long dead, and he'll still be saying on his grave, his epitaph, I still hate Bitcoin.
I've no idea how much money you made and how wealthy you became, but I'd like to talk to you about money and the impact money has had on your life and the lifestyle that comes with amassing a sizable fortune. And I'll talk about it from my experience when I was younger. So obviously I'm older than you, which you're very happy to know.
Yes, so glad.
Oldest man talking about crypto today. So back when I was in my early 30s, I started to make really good money. I started to make millions, and I started to become, I'll describe this really subtly. I became a bit of a knobhead, if I'm really honest with you. I became a bit arrogant, a bit obnoxious. I thought I was amazing. It was yacht parties every 5 minutes, private jets and all the things, the trappings that come with having this wealth and never growing into it really. And then after a while of being in that place, my life changed, and I started to realize that there was no value to it. It didn't actually inspire me. It didn't, whatever I could buy became actually quite sad, because I remember as a kid saving up for my first pair of sneakers, You know, my Nike Airs when I was 13 or 14 years old meant the world to me. They were in burgundy with grey. Look, I remember them now. And I kept them in the box and I looked after them and I had to save up, I think, $49 to buy them or whatever it was. But that whole process of working and saving, being able to buy it, all of a sudden when you've got more money than you know what to do with, there's no joy in shopping. So material things all of a sudden become meaningless and pointless. So I started to find meaning in other things when I realized that money really wasn't the true source to my happiness. Has it been a source of happiness for you? And did you get to a point where you realized that actually all of these lifestyle things that come with having a lot of money really don't carry much value to you?
Yeah, I mean, money is always a means to an end. And if you don't have an end goal, right, the money is useless. Because, like, for example, if you're in the middle of an island, right, and you've got a bunch of money, it's not very helpful, right? Because there's nobody else there to use it. So money is always a tool that we use in our society, and you must always remember that and treat it as such. And so when you want to accomplish something, make sure you have a goal basically for your money. Don't just say, oh, well, I want $1 million. For what? Well, so I could be financially free. You can be financially free right now, right? You just change your lifestyle. It's not, the money is not the end result, right? You have to decide what that result is and go for that. And then, unfortunately, you're going to have to come up with another goal in the future, because once you get to that goal, you'll only be happy for a very short amount of time, maybe a month, maybe 2. And then you'll be like, what else is there? And so make sure you have a goal that goes beyond your lifetime. And so you'll never achieve it, and you'll always be working towards it.
Interesting. A goal beyond your lifetime, so you'll never achieve it and you'll always be working towards it. It's quite profound when you think about that.
Mm-hmm. And my goal is to ensure that central banking never comes back to humanity ever again.
And you think that won't happen in your lifetime?
No, it won't. But you want to be able to educate the population. That takes a long time. I mean, for example, when they created the Central Bank of America, the Federal Reserve, the first thing their goal was to make sure that no one knew what was going on. That took a long time for them to produce that result beyond their lifetime.
I think I've done 191 interviews, and I think this has got to be in my top 5 interviews I've ever done.
Really? Why is that?
I really, really enjoyed talking to you. Your depth of understanding and your knowledge of your industry and the way that you explain it and your enthusiasm for it just oozes out of you.
I was excited from the day I first heard about Bitcoin, and I was like annoying every single person I possibly could.
Davinci, Jeremie, thank you so much for coming to join us on the show today. It's been an absolute joy.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. Cheers.
Well, what did you learn from that episode? I mean, what a great guy. Davinci taught us so much about the history of money, the history of many things really, and why he thinks it's important to understand cryptocurrency and how it's absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, going to play an even bigger role in our futures. It's easy to ignore it. It's easy to brush it aside. It's easy to say, I don't understand. You will lose if you don't learn about this kind of stuff. You will lose. And people like Davinci, Jeremie are there to educate us and help us understand better what to do, why we should do it, and how we can take advantage of it. If you've enjoyed this episode of the podcast, you can click over there and get more episodes, or alternatively, click there and subscribe. And every time I produce content, you will be the first to see it. I'll see you on the next episode.